Hello, back again. So how did you go with that question? How is anxiety working for you? It's a challenging one, isn't it? And the reason I asked it is because we have to own it before we can transform it. We have to understand it before we can take hold of it in a way. So owning that, and I've worked with quite a few people who I realise always struggle with this anxiety, but it becomes part of you. And you learn to manage it, and you learn to kind of let it work for you sometimes. So maybe the anxiety can be a good excuse not to do stuff, to not step up in your own life, to not take responsibility, to not do things. And we can use it for our benefit. And I worked with one client who was very aware that as she got better and felt better, she said, I haven't got that to fall back on. I can't use that as my excuse to get out of something, to go lay on the bed, to get her needs met in some way. Because we do use it to kind of get our needs met sometimes, to do what we want to do. So you have to own that, and you have to. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, because if someone had said that to me, I'd have really had to think about it, but I wouldn't have been conscious of how I might be using it to work for me. So I realise that might be a challenging question, and that's okay. Just thinking about it in a new way, just putting a different spin on it, can just stay curious about it. And if you stay curious, something new is going to come in to your imagination if you stay curious. So anxiety. So we're going to call it the anxiety. And we're going to call it that so we can separate a little bit from it. So how is it working for you? How is it working against you? And you could write a whole list of things of how it works against you. Well, it stops me from going out, stops me from having a voice, it stops me from meeting new people, it stops me from applying for that job, it stops me from going swimming, going to the beach. It can stop you from doing 1,001 things, can't it? Because it gets in the way. The trouble is, like you said, if it grows in the darkness, so if we don't confront, or if we don't manage it, or we don't deal with it, it kind of starts to kind of grow. And so the anxiety we're either going one of two ways. You're either allowing it to make your life smaller, or you're pushing up against it, managing it, coping with it. I'm using different words because I think it's important to, use different words, not just one word. We cope, we manage, we take responsibility for it. We learn to hold it gently and tenderly. That anxiety is an emotion that's coming up inside of us. And so what are you going to do with that emotion? What are you going to do with it? Now, for me, I was studying, and I was having to do, when you stand in front of people, presentations. And I was cacking myself. I really was self-conscious. I really didn't like doing it. It really caused a lot of anxiety. And I really had to get my handle around it, because it was the kind of thing that was going to take me out. I was either stand there and shut down, or I'd run out the door. Neither looks good. It's not very professional, is it? And it's not going to get me the mark I want. So I had to really learn to manage it. And for me to see that anxiety as a part of me, not that I wanted to repress, deny and avoid, but I needed to manage, take hold of, take responsibility for and own it, was the starting point of me overcoming that anxiety, and not the anxiety owning me, pushing me around. And so, because I felt like it was bigger than me, and of course when it goes inside and it grows, it's bigger, it feels bigger than you, whereas this anxiety was not bigger than me, it was a part of me. And on some level I was allowing it to run the show, and I didn't want to do that anymore, because I wanted what I wanted. I wanted to move forward and do a presentation in front of a class, and it was stopping me. And I'm like, no, I really want to do that presentation and get a good mark. And I knew if I let the anxiety dictate, then I wasn't going to do what I really wanted to do. So it was that conscious part of me that pushed me forward, even though there was this other part of me pulling me back. So I remember the first time I did this presentation, I got a chair, and I didn't tell anyone. I got the chair and I sat the anxiety in the chair next to me while they did the presentation. Now I used the chair as a ploy. I just grabbed a chair, put it in front of me, and I put my hand on it. No one else knew that, but actually what I was doing, I was creating a space for my anxiety to be there. And because it wasn't inside of me, it wasn't having a deep impact on me in that moment, but it was right there. And I did actually say, because this was another technique that I've obviously picked up from somewhere or read somewhere, where you actually speak about it. So, the first thing I said was, I realise I feel a bit anxious today. And as soon as I gave it some airspace, it kind of reduced the amount of anxiety I felt, because I shared it. I was vulnerable. I was open. I was honest. I was able to really express my truth in a way in front of people that didn't go running out of the room, and it was okay. I mean, I was doing something fairly anxiety provoking, so of course it was okay for me to say I felt anxious. But I got the chair, so I expressed it, and I got the chair and I put the anxiety there in front of me, or by the side of me, and I just kind of in my head got on with the presentation, and the presentation went brilliantly, and I got really good marks, and I was really happy. I felt so relieved, and I felt so courageous, and I felt so brave because I'd pushed through that fear and I'd done it anyway. And that was kind of the turning point, because I think that is a big one for a lot of us, to actually stand up in front of people and talk about something and try to educate people. It was like a presentation. In fact, I was presenting ACT therapy, which is, I think, one of the best therapies out there. And so I really, really loved that therapy, so I was able to share that. It was great. I had a lot of lovely feedback, and people come up and said, well done, that was great. And so, I felt so proud of myself. So there's ways of managing. Now, anxiety is a fear of feeling feelings. It's not actually, it's anxiety is that I don't want to look stupid. So why was I afraid to do that in front of people? Was I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want people to judge me. I didn't want people to think I'm an idiot, or there was a lot of thinking going on about what might happen and what might people respond in a negative way. And so my anxiety was very driven by insecurity, feeling like not good enough. It was that real head doing a jobby on me, telling me that people are going to think this and the other. And so that anxiety was born out of my own thinking, like of what, oh my goodness, I'm going to get it wrong, they're going to laugh at me. So that my mind was really interesting, isn't it? So the emotions run the show, and then the mind runs the show, and I'm not running the show, the mind and the emotions are. And this journey is all about mastering the system. Control this, manage this, take care of this. Right? Once you master it, it stops running the show, and there's freedom. And I can honestly say, from that moment, my anxiety, once I went the other way with it, so I was repressing, denying, avoiding, and as soon as I started embracing that anxiety, everything started to change. Instead of judging it, running from it, telling it off, being mean to it, I started to embrace it just like I would. And this is where we talk about the inner child work. And really, that's why I don't think anyone needs to feel anxious. I actually don't think we have to stay anxious. It's like people go to the doctors and I'm anxious, and they see it as a symptom, and they want to deal with the symptom instead of the driver for the symptom, which is what you think and how you see yourself and how you judge yourself and how you treat yourself. It's all an inside job. Probably because you're judging yourself and treating yourself badly, you project that onto others. And that's what we think is going to happen. That's what our mind is telling me. My mind is telling me people are going to think blah, blah, blah. People are going to judge me this. It's all an inside job that we're reflecting out onto the outside and then projecting it onto everybody else outside of us. And when you know that, and when you realise that it's all an inside job, So you're like, you realize you've given your power away and it's time to take it back. Right now on the planet, it's time for you to take that power back and do the work you need to do. And that's not about thinking you have to change. It's start healing that part of you, realizing that is a wounded part of you, and you've been rejecting and avoiding it, or beating it up, or punishing it, which is probably just what everyone else did to you growing up. And now you realize you've been doing that the same way they were, and it's time to stop doing that and come back and just hold it gently and tenderly and tell that anxiety, it's okay, you're safe, I'm right here with you, I'm going to put you down here and I'm going to hold you. Sometimes I'll use a teddy or a pillow or a cushion to, so I'm actually, and I literally will project that anxiety, and this is what I did in the beginning, and so I'd even use anything, so even like a phone or not the jar of words, like a book, even a book, you just hold the book. I'm just holding the book, this is my diary. And, I would project it onto there and I would just hold it. I might even, people don't know what you're doing. People just think, got your hand on the book. But you can use anything to actually self-soothe you, to help you come into a ease. Because what happens is the anxiety comes up, we reject, deny and avoid, and this is what causes all the pain inside of us. It's this struggle. And when you realise the struggle is inside of you, the battle is inside of you, and you stop struggling and you go, oh, it's okay, I don't like it, I don't want it, I don't, but I'm going to take care of it, I'm going to embrace it, I'm going to hold it, I'm going to come through for it in a way that maybe no one did growing up. So can you see how helpful this might be? Can you see the difference it might make? Now, if you committed to doing that, instead of running and fleeing and leaving it in the dark, you started embracing. It's like a 180-degree turnaround. Reject, deny and avoid. And it's like coming back to it and going, it's okay. Well, of course I feel scary. I'm doing something I haven't done before, or, I'm putting myself out there. And when I put myself out there as a kid, I kind of got slapped. So it's about having some empathy, some self-compassion, because what's the alternative? What is the alternative? I mean, this is the point you have to get to sometimes, where you go, what am I going to do if I don't do this? I'm just going to stay anxious my whole life, not going to do anything, never going to live my life on my terms, never going to do anything I want to do. I'm just going to do what everyone else wants me to do, or live a very small life and never have that adventure, never go anywhere or do anything, never try anything because I'm too afraid of, oh my goodness, what if I fall over and look stupid, And what happened when you fell over and looked stupid? Someone beat you up, or someone, berated you or abused you or bullied you. So now you're dead and put your toe out the door. Now, I'm not here to tell you what you want to do, what you need to do. I want to give you some strategies and some skills to actually change and heal. Because my catchphrase is don't change, heal. And I realise, I'm asking you to do something different. But really it's just the mind that has to change. It's about understanding. It's not about you going and doing a diet or walking 10Ks a day, or you eating a different diet, eating different things. It's not about that. It's about you changing your mind about something. And that happens in an instant. So you change your mind and go, okay, well, what I'm doing isn't working for me. And in fact, it never has worked for me. And maybe if I do something different, I won't feel so anxious and so afraid. Because the reason you feel anxious and afraid is because you haven't created a safe space inside of you, because no one helped you create a safe space outside of you growing up. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. And so, okay, that was then, this is now. And now I'm a grown-up and I can make a safe space, and this is where you are on a hero's journey, and you have to be your own hero. my job is to make every therapist redundant because there's so many people that can't afford it, haven't met someone they can work with. The therapist maybe struggles within themselves, so they're not always can be there for somebody in a way that they would need to be or like to be. And so for me, I just want to make all therapists redundant. You are your own therapist. You have to heal yourself. I can give you some skills. I can give you some strategies. I can point you in the right direction, but ultimately you're going to have to do it. And I can't make you. And that's why I realise if you're watching this and you come in today, that's because you're ready to do something different. You are ready to have a different experience, and your wanting has driven you here or made this pop up. So I don't know about you, but I get stuff pop up and I'm like, wow, that's just for me. I really need to hear that. And maybe I've popped up for some reason, I don't know. But maybe you needed to hear that today, that there is a different way and you can learn to do things differently. But it starts with you owning, I've got anxiety. And sometimes it works for me. Most of the time it doesn't. But when it does work for me, how does it work for me? You see, you've got to own that stuff. You've got to own it. Own it. And this is exciting. I get excited just thinking about it and talking about it and helping people, because I know this stuff works. I'm living proof that this stuff works. I kind of went through it and I had to create a way of doing it, and I've taken everything I've learned and put it together to help you do it too. And so, yeah. Oh, what do you reckon? I don't know. But you can do it. You're worthy, you're important, you are completely lovable. And some of the time, we think, because we're egocentric, we think, must have been something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're wounded, yes, but not broken, because broken implies that, you're unfixable. I hate that. I'm not going to fix you. No, this is about healing that wounded part of you, that's all. And that little part of you that's anxious, that's worried, that's scared. Have a conversation with that part of you. Talk to that part of you. So you embrace them, but what about having a conversation? So tell me what anxiety feels like for you. And then just let her tell you, or him tell you, what anxiety feels like. Terrifying. Anxiety feels like, oh my goodness, I can't breathe. Anxiety feels like I'm in a black hole and no one can see me and I'm all alone and I'm always going to be alone. Anxiety feels like my whole body's shaking. Anxiety feels, what does it feel like? Write down. Anxiety feels like what? And when that part of you has written down what anxiety feels like, this is what I want you to say to that part of you. I want you to say, I hear that anxiety makes you feel scared and alone and vulnerable, and as if no one's there for you, and as if no one's ever gonna be there for you. But I'm here to tell you something about us. See, you're the child part and I'm the parent part, and you've been trying to take care of me and do my job, and that has to end, because you only know the world in a childlike way. But I'm the parent, and I'm going to come through for you and be there for you. Start to have this conversation. Okay, then go back to the part of you that feels anxious. How does that anxious part of you feel and think about what this other part told them? So, maybe the anxious child part is like, well, who the hell are you? Where have you been for the last God knows how many years? I've been trying to do all this all on my own. Maybe that part's really angry with you. Maybe that part of you feels like, what? I've been running the show for all these years, and what, you just want to come over and take responsibility? Let it, have an honest conversation with yourself. And it wasn't till I got really friggin' honest with myself, and I was like, I was angry. I was angry with the part of me that didn't come through for me, that did neglect me, that did judge me, that did be mean to me, that did sort of criticise, and nothing was ever good enough. And so you get honest with these two parts. When I do it in the room, I make somebody stand here and I put a little sheet saying the child part, the parent part. And so we have this conversation. So I get the parent to say the feeling, the child to talk about the feeling they're really struggling with. So maybe today you're struggling with anxiety. And I get the child to say what anxiety feels like. And I keep going. I keep saying to the child, go deeper. What else does it feel like? And I don't stop until the the anxious part of you goes, that's it, I think that's all I've got. So you go deeper, because it might start off as very rational. Oh, the anxiety makes me feel like I can't do anything. And so if you have more than one word, you know it's not a feeling, it's a thought. Oh, well, the feeling of anxiety makes me feel like I'll never be enough. Okay, so they're thoughts. So, okay, go deeper. So I'll keep saying, go deeper, go deeper. So the feeling, what does it feel like to feel anxious? Scary. Now we get into feeling territory. So, okay, so the anxiety makes you feel scared, lonely, sad, depressed, fearful, angry. Keep going down, go down. What else does it feel like? Keep going down, go down. When you get to the bottom and the anxiety and anxious child part says, oh no, that's it. That's when you move over to the parent side, and the parent says to the child, I hear that you feel anxious, and when you feel anxious it leaves you feeling like you're not enough, like you can't do anything, like you're not reaching your full potential. It makes you feel like you're all alone and sad and angry, and I hear you. So the parent isn't telling the child, don't feel those things. Your parent is validating the feelings that anxious part has underneath it. You're validating it. This is the things you needed to hear. You needed empathy, love, compassion, kindness. Not, you shouldn't feel that way, you mustn't feel that way, don't you dare feel that way. Okay? So the parent says to the child, it's okay, I hear you. And I realise I haven't been there for you. But that's because I didn't know you existed before. But now that I know you do exist, I'm going to come through for you, and I'm going to be there for you, and I'm going to catch you, and I'm going to love you and take care of you and notice you and allow you to feel whatever you feel. I'm going to love you. I'm going to accept you just the way you are. And so you have this dialogue within yourself and the child, and you go back to the child and you see what the child has to say. And as you keep doing it, as you reinforce the parent, the parent goes, I hear for you, I love you, you're my responsibility. The parent says to the child, you can rest now, you can relax because I've got you. So what you're doing is you're taking the responsibility off that emotional part of you, the anxious child part of you, and you're putting it back on the parent. See, the parent is the parent and it can manage it. The child can't. That's the first part. I'm going to do the next part in the next bit because this is a lot to take on board. But obviously, if you want to listen to the whole thing, and then you'll know exactly what to do. But just, and it doesn't have to be anxious. It could be anything. So take an emotion that you're feeling today. Worried. So what does worry feel like? What does anger feel like? Go down, go down, go down. Realise if it's more than one word, it's probably a thought. So you're into the feeling. Feels scared, lonely, anxious, scary, like all of the words, all of the emotions. Go deep, go deep, go deep. And then affirm and validate and tell the child, I'm right here with you. You are not alone and everything's going to be okay. And this is an opportunity for me to say, I'm so sorry that I haven't been there for you in the past, but I didn't know you existed. But now that I know you do, I'm going to come through for you. I'm going to be there. That doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect, because I'm probably going to mess up, but I'm committed to you. I'm going to give it my best shot. So I'll leave it there, because that's quite a challenging thing. And I do this in the room with a client, and it can get quite emotional, and this is hard work. This is not easy stuff to do, but I'm talking to people that are never probably going to walk into a therapist's office, are never going to get the opportunity to do this work. So what have you got to lose? Why don't you just try it, give it a go, see what happens. I can't tell you what's going to happen. Let your experiences reveal what happens by doing it and then seeing how you feel. So I want to explain it just a little bit more before I finish. So when the child speaks about the feeling, you could take a pen, anxious, and then ask and gauge 1 being not at all, 10 being, what number would you put on anxiety right now? What would you? So every word you say. So if anxiety says, "Oh, afraid," what number would you put on afraid? 1 being not at all, 10 being, yeah, I feel super afraid. And so you're writing down the words and gauging it. What number would you put on that right now? Then you go to the other side and you've got it written down. So I hear that you feel anxious and angry, and so you read it all back out. So you've acknowledged how that part of you feels. And so we're going to come back to that when I talk about it in the next one. And I just want you to maybe think about this. Get a little bit of paper and put it on the floor. I mean, the more you put your all into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And don't be afraid if you've got tears. Tears is part of it. Tears, of course, they're going to come. This is different. It's emotional, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, and that's okay. Just go with it. Give it your best shot. What have you got to lose? Nothing. And then tell me what happened. Share your experiences. You know, it was amazing when I first started to do this. I couldn't believe it. But wait for the next one, and I'll show you the next bit. Okay? See you soon. Bye for now.